So Colton, I've got a story for you. The other day I was down in Covent Gardens, walking around enjoying the fall weather, when I came across some street performers. Now they weren't just your average buskers with guitars playing Wonderwall. As much as I do love Oasis covers, they were an orchestra quartet playing classical music. They were incredibly good, and I stopped and listened to several songs before heading on my way. They had a hat on the ground, as street performers often do, and I was so impressed that I gave them 2 whole pounds. Probably more than I've ever given to a street performer, ever. Not 100 steps later, I found myself in front of the legendary Ben's Cookies, who, as you may have guessed from the name, sells cookies. Very yummy cookies, where I bought a single cookie for £1 53 pence. Now granted, it was a white chocolate cranberry cookie, and I enjoyed it immensely. But those 2 uses of my money really got me thinking, and honestly feeling kind of ashamed. You see, Colton, the amount of people who can perform the music that I just heard is incredibly small. The amount of people who can make a cookie, like everyone and their toddler. Yet I gave 3 times more for that one cookie than I gave to each of those talented musicians individually. And this really got me thinking about the relative value of the things that I spend my money on. How much did just one of those musicians invest so that I could hear that music? Let's say that, like most kids, his first introduction to music was in middle school orchestra. He was 11 or 12 years old and in 6th grade started playing the violin. Now, of course, this is disregarding any private lessons that some parents give their kids at younger ages. So from 6th grade to 8th grade, this violin player has orchestra class 1 hour a day, 5 days a week. And American students spend about 180 days a year in school. That means that before he enters high school, our violin player has been in class about 540 hours developing this talent. Let's say he is a moderately diligent student who doesn't practice every day like his teacher would like him to, but does manage to practice for, let's say, like 3 hours a week. If he keeps it up over the summer break, by the time he enters high school, he has clocked 468 hours of personal practice, bringing his grand total to 1,008 hours. This education is mostly funded by the public school, but there are a few fees and t-shirts and activities that he has to pay for, so this hobby costs, let's say, $100 a year. Also, his parents see his interest and buy him a junky violin for Christmas that cost him like, I don't know, $100 at some neighborhood music store. But really, it isn't until most students get into high school or beyond that they really start getting serious about music. Our friend the violin player keeps up with his orchestra classes 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, which after 4 years of high school pushes his total time commitment up to nearly 1,800 hours. Music interests him more and more, and he no longer needs his parents' threats or his mom's nagging to practice, and being moderately self-motivated, but not perfect, he pulls off 5 hours a week of personal practice. After 4 years of high school, he has now practiced a total of 2,768 hours on his violin. His parents again see his interest and start paying for him to take private lessons, which are only an hour a week, but cost $30 a lesson. That means that by the time he graduates, he will have spent over $6 grand on private lessons and practiced nearly 3,000 hours. Again, the schools are public, but there are a few fees. And after a while, that junky starter violin isn't up to his level, so again for Christmas, he gets a nice one. Violins can literally cost millions of dollars, but we get him a $2,000 one that is rather good quality. Also, we of course need to pay for the strings over the last 7 years. If we get the cheap ones, that's like $25 a year. So a typical high school graduate who plays the violin has invested 3,000 hours and $9,215 into this skill. That's not including travel, festivals, community groups, school performance groups, and peer form groups, all of which cost time and money. And that's just high school. I don't have time to track our violin playing friend through all of university, but if he chooses to pursue music, the interweb says that he will pay on average $15,000 a year. And who even knows how much time? So, how much went into making that cookie that I bought for £1.50? Well, the price of flour, the price of eggs, the price of white sugar, brown sugar, vanilla, the white chocolate chips, the cranberries, and a low-paid employee who can make hundreds at a time. Now, Colton, you know I'm not a mathematician. I've made some obvious generalizations, and probably a few addition errors, but it is easy to see how much more valuable the music is compared to the cookie. And my guilt comes from the fact that I don't feel like my spending habits and priorities are in line with the real value of things. But that's just street performers, right? Surely we must appreciate other talented people's contributions more. Let's say a band that I like comes out with a new album. How much is it gonna cost me? I don't know, maybe like $10. But we don't buy it, do we? We listen to it for free on the internet. If I paid to download it, or I bought the CD, I would have access to that music for literally the rest of my life. If I listened to just one single once a month, and I lived to the age expectancy of 85, I could listen to that song 756 times before I died. And that's only if I listened to it once a month. Most songs are what, let's say like 4 minutes long? And if I listen to it once a month, that's 3,024 minutes of entertainment. That's over 50 hours. But albums come with what, like 12 tracks? That's over 36,000 minutes of music. And again, if listening to it only once a month, that is 25 days of entertainment for the price of one album over my lifetime. When you do the math, that's 1 penny for every 36 hours of entertainment. You see, I pay $10 for a 2-hour movie. I pay $4.50 for an ice cream cone that I'll eat in 15 minutes. But yet I can't afford to buy the music that I like from the bands that I like that could provide me with literally months of entertainment over the course of my life. And let's not even try to calculate the amount of time and money that went into from when those musicians started learning their instruments to when they finally finished recording their album. 'Cause it would be a lot. Colton, to be honest, I'm not even really 100% sure what my point is, or what this video is trying to accomplish. I also want to admit that I'm probably the first one that I would consider guilty in whatever it is I'm accusing society of. But I guess I'm just afraid that if we keep buying cookies for 1,000% more than they're worth, and we keep paying artists 10,000% less than they're worth, who knows? We may be looking at a future where we have tons and tons of cookie shops, and no artists.